She thought she was marrying the man of her dreams, until she realized the dream was actually a trap. A single signature would change everything, and when the truth came out, she left him in the dust for his worst enemy. Jonathan was perfect, or at least that's what she believed. Handsome, charming, endlessly ambitious, with a smile that could melt the coldest heart. From the very beginning, he had a way of making her feel special, like she was the only woman who had ever mattered to him. But behind that magnetic charm was a darkness she would only discover too late. When he proposed, there was a glimmer of unease, but she ignored it. He had one condition, a prenup. "It's just standard," he said, brushing it off with a casual laugh. "Nothing personal, just protection, everyone does it." And love, that foolish, blinding thing, told her to trust him. She signed. That little piece of paper, those cold, impersonal words, would one day be her cage. For a while, life seemed perfect. They traveled the world, dined in the finest restaurants, and Samantha felt untouchable. She had wealth, status, and a man who seemed devoted. But slowly, tiny cracks began to appear. He came home late without explanation. His eyes would glaze over when she spoke. The phone calls, hushed and hurried, made her stomach knot. She wanted to trust him. She needed to trust him. Maybe he was just stressed, she thought. Maybe she was overthinking it. But deep down, something told her that the paradise she had entered was built on lies. Then came the night that shattered everything. She had prepared a romantic dinner, candles flickering, the table set with crystal glasses and silver cutlery. She waited and waited. Her phone buzzed, a single message, a name she didn't recognize. "Can't wait to see you again, darling." Her hands shook, her heart hammered against her chest. The months of small doubts, fleeting suspicions, the cold distance, every piece fell into place. He had been cheating all along, and now she knew. And the prenup, the cruel little document that she had signed without a second thought. It meant that everything, the apartment, the savings, the jewelry, the lifestyle she had once loved, was not hers. She could leave, but she would walk away with nothing. A lifetime of comfort and security vanished in a heartbeat, leaving her raw, exposed, and furious. But Samantha was not a woman who could be caged. Not really. With trembling hands, she packed a small suitcase, forcing herself to breathe, forcing herself to move. Every step away from that apartment, from that man, was a step toward freedom. The luxury, the mansion, the illusions, they didn't matter anymore. What mattered was dignity. What mattered was self-respect. And somewhere deep inside, a fire began to burn. Life has a strange way of delivering the unexpected. And in her darkest moment, he appeared, Michael. Jonathan's fiercest business rival, a man who commanded boardrooms with an iron fist but had a tenderness few ever saw. He found her sitting alone in a small cafe, her face pale, her eyes haunted. Without hesitation, he reached out. Not with pity, not with condescension, but with genuine care. "You deserve better than him," he said. And for the first time in months, Samantha felt a flicker of hope. Michael's world was intoxicating. He spoiled her in ways Jonathan never had. Small gestures, thoughtful surprises, quiet mornings that stretched into late afternoons of laughter and comfort. He showed her that love could be kind, playful, even indulgent. Every smile, every touch reminded her that life could be beautiful again and sweeter than she had ever imagined. And yet Jonathan's shadow lingered, though she was gone. Gossip followed her. Whispers, judgmental stares, the cruel thrill of those who loved scandal. But Samantha didn't care. She had learned a hard truth. Wealth could be taken, status could be mocked, but dignity could not be stolen. And with Michael by her side, she began to see a future she hadn't dared dream of before, one filled with love, revenge, and freedom. She had left him with nothing, yet in doing so, she had gained everything. And the story was only beginning. Samantha had left Jonathan behind, but the scars of betrayal ran deep. Every night, memories haunted her. The way he smiled, the way he whispered promises she had trusted blindly, the way she had once believed she was untouchable. Walking away had been the hardest decision of her life, but staying would have been a slow death of the soul. And now, free from his shadow, she was determined to rediscover herself, though she had no idea just how intoxicating freedom could feel. Michael became her anchor and her storm. He was everything Jonathan was not: attentive, unpredictable, generous in the most thoughtful ways, and fiercely protective. He spoiled her, not out of obligation, but because he delighted in seeing her smile, hearing her laugh, watching her eyes light up like they had before the world had been taken from her. Weekends became escapes into a world of extravagance she had only glimpsed before. Private villas overlooking turquoise seas, late-night drives with the wind whipping her hair, picnics in gardens that seemed to bloom just for her. But it wasn't just the luxury. It was the feeling of being chosen, adored, seen. Samantha felt her confidence return with every shared secret, every soft touch, every quiet affirmation of worth. She remembered who she was before Jonathan, who she had almost lost herself to, and realized she didn't have to apologize for wanting more love, more respect, more life. And Michael was determined to give her all of it. He whispered things in the middle of the night she never thought she'd hear again, like, "You are everything I've ever wanted, and no one will ever hurt you the way he did." But even as Samantha's heart began to heal, the past refused to stay buried. Rumors of her leaving Jonathan spread like wildfire. Friends she thought were allies questioned her decisions. Social media mocked her, painting her as a gold digger or a jilted trophy wife. And in the shadows, Jonathan was watching. He hadn't expected her to walk away. He hadn't expected her to find someone like Michael, someone who could give her more than he ever could. And for the first time, Samantha realized something thrilling. She had the power to hurt him back, not with revenge, but simply by living, thriving, and being undeniably happy without him. Michael seemed to sense this new fire in her. He encouraged it, nurtured it, and fueled it. Together, they created a world of excess and passion where Samantha could reclaim herself. Dinners at private restaurants, champagne showers, spontaneous jet trips. Luxury became her armor and her indulgence. But beneath all the glamour, she felt an even deeper thrill, being wanted for her heart and her mind, not her bank account. Michael adored her not for what she owned, but for who she was, a revelation that made her pulse race every time he looked at her. One evening, as they watched the sun dip behind a golden skyline, Michael reached for her hand. "Do you realize," he said softly, "that you've already won? You left the wrong man behind and now you're free. No chains, no limits, just you and me." Samantha felt heat rise to her cheeks, a mixture of longing, gratitude, and something deliciously dangerous, the realization that she could have it all. She was beautiful, desired, empowered, and unstoppable. But life rarely stays simple for long. One afternoon, as Samantha attended a high-profile charity gala with Michael, Jonathan appeared. He looked the same, handsome, arrogant, but there was something different in his eyes. He wasn't just surprised to see her. There was anger, a glimmer of fear, and a touch of regret. The room seemed to shrink as he approached. For the first time, Samantha saw him not as her husband, but as a man who had underestimated her. And she realized how far she had come, not just in wealth or luxury, but in self-worth and control. Jonathan tried to charm her, to remind her of the life she had abandoned, but Samantha didn't flinch. Michael stood at her side, a silent reminder that she wasn't alone. She smiled, calm and confident, and said words that made Jonathan's jaw tighten. "I don't need what you offered. I'm happier than I've ever been." In that moment, the power had shifted. She wasn't the woman who had signed that cruel prenup. She was a force to be reckoned with, adored by the man who truly valued her, and untouchable by the man who had betrayed her. The gala was just the beginning. From that day forward, Samantha embraced her new life fully. Michael continued to spoil her with gestures both grand and intimate, from private art showings to secluded beach weekends. Every touch, every word, every laugh reminded her that she deserved everything she had fought for. And with every step she took, Jonathan's shadow grew smaller and smaller, until she realized that revenge didn't need to be dramatic. It was simply living, thriving, and being undeniably happy, while he watched from the sidelines. And Samantha, once broken and trapped by betrayal, began to feel a thrill she had never experienced before. The exhilaration of absolute freedom, indulgence, and passion, with the man who loved her for everything she was, not for what she had. The fire of betrayal had ignited something far greater than vengeance. It had awakened her power, and she wasn't stopping. Samantha had survived betrayal, heartbreak, and scandal. She had left Jonathan with nothing, stepped into the arms of a man who adored her, and embraced a life of passion, luxury, and freedom. But the story was far from over. The past has a way of creeping back, and revenge, when done right, is always sweeter when it arrives unannounced. Jonathan had underestimated her. He had thought she would crumble under the weight of his deception, that the prenup would bind her like chains. But Samantha had discovered something far more valuable than money or jewels. She had discovered her own strength, and with Michael by her side, she was untouchable. The day Jonathan realized just how far she had gone, he felt the sting of jealousy, fear, and regret all at once. Rumors of Samantha's new life had reached him, how she was adored, pampered, celebrated, and happy in ways he could never provide. He saw photographs of her smiling with Michael on yachts, at private galas, in villas overlooking the ocean. Every image was a silent dagger, every whispered compliment another wound. And he knew it. He had lost her forever. Samantha, however, was not interested in petty revenge. Her triumph was living brilliantly, thriving wildly, and relishing every moment of her newfound freedom. But the universe has a way of turning the tables dramatically, and when Jonathan tried to maneuver in the business world, he found his empire subtly undermined. Deals mysteriously fell through, investors hesitated, and rivals, whispered to by someone very persuasive, closed in. Michael's expertise, cunning, and influence quietly dismantled Jonathan's hold over the world they had once shared, leaving him powerless and alone. Samantha watched quietly from the sidelines, a small, knowing smile gracing her lips. She didn't need to gloat. The power was in her very existence. She was alive, radiant, and adored. Every whispered regret Jonathan uttered in private would never reach her ears because she had already moved beyond him. And then there were the personal touches, the moments that cemented her rise from betrayal to triumph. Michael surprised her with experiences she had only dreamed of: private concerts under the stars, surprise trips to secluded islands, afternoons where the world seemed to belong only to them. Each gesture was a reminder of her worth, each whispered compliment a balm to old wounds. In Michael's arms, she felt cherished, desired, and untouchable. But the final twist came when Jonathan, desperate and humiliated, attempted a public confrontation, an arrogant, poorly disguised attempt to reclaim control. It happened at an elite charity gala, the same stage where Samantha had first flaunted her newfound freedom. He approached her, trying to mask anger with charm, attempting to pull her back into his world, to remind her of the life she had abandoned. Samantha didn't flinch. Michael stood firmly by her side, a silent wall of strength and devotion. She looked Jonathan in the eyes, calm, confident, and unshakable. "I don't need you. I never did," she said. "I'm living the life you never imagined for me, and I've never been happier." Jonathan stumbled, words failing him. The power had shifted entirely. The golden cage he had once held her in had been shattered, and she had emerged not just unbroken, but gloriously radiant. From that moment on, Samantha embraced her life fully. Every day was a celebration of survival, love, and triumph. With Michael, she was spoiled, adored, and free. With every lavish adventure, with every intimate moment of tenderness and passion, she reinforced the truth. She didn't need anyone who had betrayed her. She only needed the man who truly cherished her and the courage to claim the life she deserved. The story, once darkened by lies and betrayal, ended not with sorrow, but with fire, passion, and brilliance. Samantha had reclaimed everything: her heart, her happiness, her dignity, and her freedom. She had walked away from betrayal and walked straight into triumph, proving that the strongest revenge is a life lived beautifully, unchained, and unapologetically adored. And in the arms of Michael, she knew one unshakable truth: love, respect, and indulgence are far sweeter when earned through resilience, courage, and the refusal to settle for anything less than extraordinary.